I spent 1 month traveling around the Isle of Great Britain. What sights, cuisine, and random experiences did I encounter here? Well, way too many to summarize, so let's get right into it.
I landed at Heathrow Airport just days after their little electrical problem and took the express train into London.
Look at this shirt. Forewarning, there's going to be a lot of train in this.
Getting around London using the underground was magnificent. Quick, efficient, and rarely a hassle. I missed that thing dearly. My hostel was near plenty of London must-sees. The Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, the London Eye, Trafalgar Square, Piccadilly Circus, and Buckingham Palace.
If it's a souvenir in a London gift shop, I probably saw it. And it was also my birthday that day.
So cheers 25. Anywho, what else? Yes, got some literature on English history and had some overpriced fish and chips for dinner. And then proceeded to forget my book in said pub and had to take the tube all the way back up, but then I got to ride in a red double-decker bus, so that was fun. Unsurprisingly, these are everywhere in the city and add to why London Transit is superb. Alright, day 2, starting the morning in the fog. Honestly, disappointed this wasn't the weather when I arrived. What are the stereotype jokes even for? Oh, and the Shard. Near that was the Tower Bridge. I love looking at this thing. What a marvel of a design. The blue streaks on it, majestic. Next up was exploring the Tower of London, home to London's oldest building, the White Tower, tons of ravens, and the royal jewels. Tons of fascinating history here. My big takeaway was it's so old that even in the 1500s, people would look at it and think, wow, that thing's old. Journeyed across Tower Bridge over to the British Museum. Plenty of artifacts to see here, my favorite being the Rosetta Stone, the artifact that helped decipher Egyptian hieroglyphics. Followed this by meeting an old friend who showed me some political landmarks of Westminster, like the common man's view of the British Prime Minister's residence at number 10 Downing Street. Thanks to the Portuguese wine again, man. Absolute blast of a night. We'll be back in London a bunch, so let's head to Birmingham for now. And if you know the UK, you're probably asking, Kyle, why on earth would you head to Birmingham? It's got a trash reputation. And yeah, the ongoing bin strike did show its trashy side, but I had to see it. I'll admit, I adored the canalways here. I didn't realize how extensive the inner city canals were. I liked the locks covered with graffiti. I liked the bougie feeling of the fixed up Gas Street Basin area. I adored the narrow boats. I had no clue there was a whole trust dedicated to all of this. You got 10 out of 10 canals, Birmingham. Beyond that,
I can't speak for all, but I read a bunch of Shakespearean plays in high school and thought that they were quite posh. But none of that studying prepared me for the ultimate Shakespeare reveal. Shakespeare was a country boy.
Stratford-upon-Avon is famous for being William Shakespeare's hometown. Literally, the highlight attraction is his birthplace. Like, he was born right here in this room. This is the man who made the name Jessica and invented phrases like into thin air and Greek to me. Everything in this charming town was Shakespeare. The theater company bears his name, his wife's family cottage is a tourist spot, and the Tudor architecture...
Okay, that's not Shakespeare, but it sure does add to the overall aesthetic.
I could look at it for hours. And if you're starting to notice that the weather is bloody beautiful, for the whole trip,
I only had 3 days of rainy weather.
Britain, you spoiled me. But enough England for now, let's head to Wales.
Hi, Educator Kyle here, the version of me that knows way too much random information for me to keep my mouth shut. So here's some geography you should know.
This is Great Britain. It is a part of the country, the United Kingdom, which also includes this portion on the island of Ireland. The UK has 4 countries inside of it. Yes, 4 countries inside 1 country. They are England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Great Britain has 3 of these countries. Northern Ireland is not a part of Great Britain, despite being a part of the UK. It's on the island of Ireland, but Northern Ireland is not in the country of Ireland. Ireland, the country, is its own country, not a part of the UK, and I'm not going through the trouble to explain why that is. So for clarity, I'm in Britain going from England to Wales. I swear it makes sense. Anyway, where in Wales are we going? Cardiff. One thing that I love about Wales is how everything is written in the Welsh language first and English second. And the Welsh word for Wales is Cymru, meaning something akin to fellow compatriot.
Contrast that with the English language Wales, which means It means foreigner.
But hey, really cool to see the Welsh identity thriving. Had some Welsh call for dinner and enjoyed downtown that night. The place I was staying at was by the stadium, and I could hear the whole place erupting with cheers during the England versus Wales women's rugby match. That was really, really cool. Next day, I checked out the National Museum Cardiff. I liked the art and fossils, but I really liked the exhibit on Welsh coal mine strikes in the 80s. Powers to the Union, baby. Cardiff Castle was incredible. Tons here. You had World War II air raid shelters, Victorian decor, but my personal favorite was the Norman Keep. It felt untouched, just pure solace in one building. It's awesome to see places with over 2,000 years of history to them. You just don't get that in the States. Side note, the Welsh flag has a big red dragon on it, and I love it. It stems from an old fable where two dragons fought, one red and one white, and after the long fight, the red dragon was victorious. This represents the native Britons of the region being inevitably victorious over the invading Anglo-Saxons. Thus, if that history confuses you, the red dragon shows the strength, identity, and independence of Wales, never going down no matter how many fights. Okay, other Cardiff stuff. Welsh cakes were delicious. Lovely little hot cakes, really tasty. I enjoyed wandering through the arcades, saw the Welsh government building, the Senedd, and relaxed on the edge of Cardiff Bay. And then I got rural. With a mix of trains and buses, I journeyed into northern Wales, where sheep are abundant. Go ahead, count how many sheep are in this video. You can't. There's simply too many. The ride was picturesque, ending with views along the Welsh coast. I ended up in the small village of Talisyn. This place is usually a summer hotspot with campgrounds and easy beach access. So what drew me all the way out here at the top of the spring? The world's first preserved railway.
Look, I love trains.
It all started with a huge Thomas the Tank Engine obsession I had as a little kid, and many of those Thomas stories that were embedded into my brain were based on stories from real-life trains. Specifically here, the narrow gauge engines. Those ones always stood out to me because of, how small they are. On top of that, the show was actually adapted from a book series written by Reverend W. Awdry. Now this man loved trains. So much so that he volunteered on many railways, including the first preserved one, the Talisyn Railway. And when I learned that the author adapted the engines and stories of the Talisyn into Thomas, baby, you just made a dream destination solely to satisfy my 5-year-old self. The Talisyn Railway is called the Railway with a Heart of Gold, and it shows. The views on this 7-mile line were amazing. I shared a ride with an older gentleman who regularly volunteered on the railway, and he was constantly pointing out several photogenic spots. Numerous times, the Talisyn was nearly shut down due to money troubles or only had one working locomotive. But the volunteers kept this place alive. Knowing the 160 years of chaos and hard work that led to the present-day Talisyn made everything special. Admiring the stations, hiking up into the mountains, spotting slate mine ruins, waterfalls, and bridges, seeing the newest engine made in the 90s, number 7 Tom Roll, and the oldest, number 1 Talisyn, who was made all the way back in 1864. Yeah, it made 5-year-old me really happy.
This is awesome.
Who knows if I'll ever return, but I'll never forget how blissful the Talisyn was. Without question, a trip highlight. Back to England now. Where better than the home of the Beatles, Liverpool? This was the day the Switch 2 reveal happened, so maybe my attention had some different priorities. However, I did stroll along the River Mersey in the evening, and I checked out the docks that made Liverpool the popular port city it is. For the full day there, first things first, you gotta do something Beatles related. I went to the Beatles Story Museum, which showed off the history of the band from start to breakup. Fantastic experience, I learned so much, and I was just impressed at how detailed it was. Just outside was the Royal Albert Dock, which was the main trading hub in the 19th century. Nowadays, it has tons of shops, but is still sublime. Super close was also the Museum of Liverpool. Lots of neat local history there, saw the Fab Four in stone form, and toured the World Museum. Liverpool Cathedral surprised me the most though. Outside and inside were both gorgeous. We really should make stained glass mainstream, it's mesmerizing. I finished the night with a pint listening to cover bands at the Cabinet Club, the venue where the Beatles first got their start. It wasn't the original location, mind you, but that didn't really matter You could feel the passion and emotion people had just being enamored by British rock music. Loved you, Liverpool. Never change. After this was the short train ride over to Manchester. I was exhausted, so the only real highlight was visiting the National Football Museum. Loved learning more about the history and culture surrounding the world's most popular sport and British exports. The collections of kits and footballs were my favorite to look at.
Maybe one day it'll come home, lads. Just keep praying.
A very fitting museum because I trekked back into Wales the day after to go to Wrexham. Yes, I'm one of those Americans.
And I'm sorry that your football club didn't get Hollywood money.
Wrexham is a Welsh town home to Wrexham AFC, a football club that was bought by Hollywood actors Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney in 2020. Much like any club, their goal was to win as many games as possible in their league division and try to get promoted to the next league. Atop that, the co-owners launched a documentary about the club, showing the club and its impact on the local community to a worldwide audience. Let's just say that caught my heart and I jumped on the Wrexham bandwagon. After watching the doc and the team's back-to-back promotions, seeing the racecourse grounds and their home match against Burton was a blast, especially with a 3-0 win setting them up for a better chance at promotion. Also, Ryan Reynolds was there that day, so that's cool, I guess.
And once I got home, Wrexham clinched that promotion, so back to back, baby. Up the town, let's go Wrexham. Let's see how well you'll do in the championship with everybody hating your guts.
Yeah, I didn't leave out Manchester. I adored the red brick buildings in this city. The Science and Industry Museum gave me a new understanding of all the changes this city made for the world at large. The factories and machinery behind the Industrial Revolution originated here. I never considered just how massive of a change this made to society. This made so many people move into cities specifically to get work in overpacked factories, and new industries emerged like textiles. Like, this didn't just affect the British, it affected the planet. Cotton picked by slaves in the American South would be shipped to Liverpool and sent to factories in Manchester to be turned into clothes and linens. Let alone, this model of production carved out the pathway for our modern climate change issues. The British Empire had connections to every country in endless ways. Several good, several bad. But what else is cool in this city? Castlefield, this area was awesome. Tons of canals and rail lines intersect in this vicinity. I find beauty in the chaos of that all. It's remarkable, and yet again, highlights how industry put this place on the map. At this point, I tired of the urban life. Give me more nature, please. And the Lake District met those needs tenfold. Up here in northwest England are loads of lakes and mountains that go on for what feel like endless miles. And the vast majority of this leg of the trip can be summarized like this. Oh, is there a peak? Let me climb it. Wow, what a view. I stayed in the Windermere area, and I fell in love with Lake Windermere. Not only was the town lovely, but these views. Man, these views. I've only been showing you views from Orsett Head so far. I spent the next day trekking to and fro. The weather was perfect, the discoveries while hiking were fantastic, and the views. Did I mention the views?
This whole area is also a national park.
And with the UK's right to roam laws, I could take paths across private farmland and find offbeat areas. I befriended sheep, people. This is paradise. Being out here reminded me that I need to go out into nature and disconnect way more often. We humans are meant to explore, seek out experiences just because they exist. Windermere and the Lake District proved to me that you never know when you'll find things you love. Because this place now holds a very special spot in my heart. Possibly the best place on the whole trip. I made a brief stop in Carlisle and saw another friend. Thank you for meeting up with me so last minute and joining me in your city. It was a blast. The cathedral here was wonderful and I really enjoyed the Roman history of the area. But shout out to Milkshed. Milkshed. Wow. Milkshed. But leaving England, I crossed over into Scotland. Scotland forever! I stayed in Glasgow right near the university. This part of the city had phenomenal stone-built buildings. I love these so much. And eating a meal deal overlooking the uni as the sun set? Perfection.
Holy cow, how have I not mentioned meal deals?
Think of it like this. A main, a side, and a drink for £5. Literally every day I had a sandwich, a snack, and a drink for £5. That is such a good deal. Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Greggs. Thank you for the meal deal.
I miss it tremendously.
Now, I spent a criminally short time in Scotland, so I was rushing to cross off my bucket list of spots. One of which I had to see a loch The closest one to me was Loch Lomond of Scottish rock band Runrig fame. And what's more to say, Scotland's natural beauty is unparalleled. I unfortunately couldn't get a clear aerial view of the loch thanks to logging of all things, but I couldn't complain. Nature is good for the soul. Back in the city, I visited the Kellingrove Art Gallery. First things first, look at this organ. Nuts! Lots of Scottish history here. Really neat museum. I then darted around town and happily found an Iron Brew. This is a fizzy soda brewed in Scotland, and listen, I hate soda. I hate most things with any sort of carbonation in it. I can't do sparkling water, Coca-Cola, but Iron Brew, it is not most soda. This orange-colored elixir of delight is,
delightful. I don't know. I got nothing else. I'm just amazed I enjoy a soda. Also, the trip over to the next city was really embarrassing. For context, I used a rail pass that international tourists can get, so I didn't have to buy multiple train tickets. I literally hopped off of one train that let me off inside of one of the main Glasgow stations,
right onto what Google Maps told me was the platform number I needed for my next train. But I ended up getting on an empty train leaving for the depot. So there I am, standing alone in horror, hoping whoever helps my idiot American ass out cannot tell I'm a novice rail fan.
because who knows what fate would have awaited me if they knew that.
But thankfully the staff was super kind and even joked about how people accidentally do this on occasion. And it's nice when it's a tourist during the day and not a drunk Scotsman on a weekend night. With that behind me, I made it to the best city of the whole trip, Edinburgh. I knew people loved it here, but I didn't get why until I went. Where to start? So much overlooks the castle, I don't think there's a single bad angle of it to look at. And Old Town stone streets and buildings were breathtaking, let alone everything on the Royal Mile. And yeah, this all looks like an inspired Diagon Alley in Harry Potter. Is Edinburgh even real? Like, every nook and cranny had something pretty tucked behind it. I loved this. And then I saw it, a mountain that I could climb. So there I go, up yet another peak. I need to shut up about views, but come on, look at these views. The apex of Arthur's Seat was simply invigorating. The wind is bellowing against you, the paths are craggy and fierce. No matter which way I faced, I loved what I was seeing. I may have been up there a full hour, I couldn't tell you. Day 2 was even more special because I met up with my friend and her husband. So incredible seeing them and having them show me the sights of their city. We saw a wonky clock and a cloned sheep amongst other inventions at the National Museum of Scotland, had plenty of Scottish sweets, and then went into Edinburgh Castle. Plenty to see here, historic, natural, and Scottish all around. Oh, and then I got jump scared. Side note, I saw a postal worker collect the mail. Listen, you can't mail a letter from your house in Britain. You have to put it in a red postal box. And these things are everywhere. I don't know why I'm entranced by strange things like this. Then, at a little journey near the Forth Bridge, which had even more for me to gawk at, and a lovely little seaside town. Seriously, spoiled by this weather.
And a massive shout out to the delicious, amazing homemade Scottish dinner they ended up making. Fantastic stuff. I liked haggis.
I don't care what America says about lamb lung, I would eat that again. Fantastic day, no notes, up there with Windermere on how much I loved it. Another early rise and hopped on a non-stop LNER train that went all the way from Edinburgh down to London, where it finally rained. Oh my god, England can have crappy weather. I found it, guys. Look, it's real! This is where I met up with my parents. We went to a bunch of London sites over the next few days. The changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace was a delight. Felt like a show with such a huge crowd watching. We took a ride on the London Eye. I love overlooks, and this was the best one I experienced in London. What else? The Millennium Bridge, St. Paul's Cathedral, places I've been to already, but at night. Museums, the Victoria and Albert, the National Gallery. Then I bounced to Greenwich, saw a boat, ate at a very young pub, and had a good catch up with a friend from college. Funnily enough, that's still not all I saw around London, but let's say that for even later on. Let's hop on a bus for now and get out of the city, go look at some rocks. Stonehenge, you're a beautiful mystery we've slowly made more sense of. It pops out in the middle of nowhere in a field, and you can't help but stare at it and think, how does this exist? How does any prehistoric site like this exist? We're truly blessed to have places like this still around. It makes you wonder just how much change mankind has undergone. Experts have made plenty of plausible theories as to why Stonehenge was built, such as it possibly being a burial ground, a healing place, and or an astronomical calendar. But the fact that we will never 100% for certain know makes you appreciate it all the more. Next on the docket was Bath. The buildings here are made out of this majestic limestone.
And spots like the Royal Crescent are simply second to none.
Like this over a McMansion any day of the week, please and thank you. The city gets its name from the old Roman baths. The well-preserved ruins here still have natural thermal spring water filling its basin. And the whole museum goes super in-depth on all the history and landmarks that were once and still exist on these grounds. I sound like a broken record, but Bath was awesome.
There's nothing on this trip that's not worth talking about. Speaking of which, York.
Back in northern England, nothing like it. We met up with an old friend of my mom's here who showed us all around town. So much history in the city. A ruined abbey destroyed in the 16th century, the stunning York Minster in the city center, and the best street name in all of Britain, Whitmawumpmagate. Shortest road in York, maybe all of England, impossible to pronounce without an English accent. I love you, Whitmawumpmagate. Stay short, king. The coolest thing there was walking across the city walls.
Since Roman times, they've looped all around of the old town.
And it's such a cool view going from bar to bar. I also tried a proper English tea for the first time. And I just need to say, whoever decided it was a good idea to put milk in tea deserves a posthumous knighthood. Holy crap, this makes tea not just bearable, but delicious. So shout out to tea. You're on my good list now. So some fun context for today's adventure. Part of my family's lineage comes from northern England. My mom's maiden name and my middle name is Bainbridge.
Yeah, that's a fun one to explain to people.
The surname can be traced back to the Leeds area. However, the name matches directly with a village in the Yorkshire Dales. So let's rent a car and see where my ancestry probably stemmed from. So there I am, American driving on the left side of the road, steering wheel on the right side of the car. Whew. Honestly, after 15 minutes, not that big a deal. I just kept telling myself stay left and made sure to study up on roundabouts beforehand. And the village was, well, a small rural village. There are hundreds of these across the country. I might as well have one that's special to me. But why the name Bainbridge? That's because the River Bain, arguably the smallest river in England, flows through the village. And there's a single bridge over the river in town. So, Bain Bridge. Not too shabby. And since we're out here in the beautiful Yorkshire Dales, I had to see Ribblehead Viaduct. It's a train bridge. I'm a simple man. But for real, the Dales are stunning. The mountains, the grasses. This is the rural England I envisioned of visiting, with high winds and gray skies. The viaduct itself, also a marvel. This is one of those landmarks where I have to look around and think, how the hell did I end up here? I read about this place long ago, and now I'm here. It goes to show that if you put your heart and soul into wanting to go somewhere, you can. I don't really know what point I'm trying to make. Go chase after your dreams or something. Maybe you'll see an old train bridge. With trains on the mind, the National Railway Museum is located back in York, and it did not disappoint. So many beautiful engines, both old and modern, call this place home. Standout locomotives on display included Mallard, the fastest steam engine of all time, clocking in at 126 miles per hour. And the most famous British engine, which was, debatedly, the first to hit 100 miles per hour, the Flying Scotsman. The Scotsman had a whole temporary exhibit for herself here, so it was just a treat to see her at all. Like, I really lucked out. Ugh. I like trains. Visited my mom's friend again, who had a Harry Potter cabinet under the stairs. Some things here in Britain I just can't believe are real, low key. Then I saw the local maypole. Again, I love that these things are just real things. And before we knew it, we were headed back down to London. My folks flew out the next day, so I decided to see what southern England had to offer me on my last leg of the trip. Obviously, I wasn't tired of trains, so I went to another heritage line, the Bluebell Railway. I love seeing old steam trains in full-fledged action. They're loud, powerful, and sometimes scary machines that are somehow both charming and serene. I loved all the preserved stations along the line and seeing the various coaches and trucks being restored too. Volunteers at these lines are real ones for doing all of this. And of course, I had to stop by and say hi to the Bluebell's first preserved engine, Stepney, who, you guessed it, impacted me as a kid. Full circle moments for 5-year-old me. Following this, I journeyed south more via bus to Brighton. I like standing on the rocky beach and seeing the various seaside attractions during their off-peak season. Plenty of neatly painted buildings too.
The pier was also charming, if not overtly touristy. Nice spot, especially the sea.
I'm gonna call this day the London speedrun.
Because, I saw a crap ton.
I started in Greenwich and saw the Royal Observatory. Lots of astronomy was conducted here, but it's most famous for the prime meridian, the exact longitude of 0. It's the reference point for Greenwich Mean Time, being the center point of time in the world. The rest of the world is divided into east and west by this line. Time zones wouldn't be a thing without it. I feel like I'm one of the only people who enjoys these sorts of things. Nearby was the Old Royal Naval College. I enjoy the art pieces at the Queen's House Museum and love the architecture of the college. I then bounced up to Camden and enjoyed exploring the shops and strolling along the canal. This led me to Primrose Hill, giving an incredible view of London. But the speedrun doesn't stop there. Oh no, next up was Wembley Stadium, one of the greatest football stadiums in the world. Being Britain's largest sports venue, walking around the perimeter puts into perspective just how massive it is, especially the arch. That thing is a monster.
The last stop of the speedrun might have been the coolest film-related thing I could have seen in all of Britain.
The Harry Potter Studio Tour. Now, I'm not a diehard Potterhead or even care for the series now as I used to as a preteen,
but this was magnificent.
Right from the get-go, you're able to stand on the practical sets that were used in the films, and all the displays are incredible. The special effects display in the Great Hall starts it off, and what a welcome. Then you have loads of costumes, plenty of practical effect demonstrations, more sets like the Gryffindor Common Room, the Dursley's House, Diagon Alley, and then other large-scale props like the Night Bus and the Hogwarts Express, and there is so much, it's kinda overwhelming. And if you're a movie lover like me, you'll love the concept art and crew member info boards. There's so much detail and love put into the making of process, it's incredible. My favorite portion though was seeing the model of Hogwarts that was built for the films. Plenty of wide shots use this castle prop as a base, and it's just magnificent. Incredible experience. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Speedrun over. The whole next day was spent in Cambridge. I have a friend who graduated from the university there and still lives in the area, so she graciously showed me around the city and colleges. Right away, there are several odd but cool historical things to see, like the field where the first football match was played, the labs where both the electron and the DNA spiral were first discovered, and the church where George Washington's great uncle was a reverend. This is where I learned the Washington coat of arms potentially may have inspired, but probably not, the stripes of this beauty, but definitely the flag of DC. What else? The mathematical bridge, fabled to have been initially made with no nails, just physics. Lots of gondolas here. Cows? That part I didn't get. And then the colleges. I still don't fully understand how it works, but the whole of Cambridge University has 31 colleges in it. And the colleges sort of act like the houses do in Harry Potter, where you eat, sleep, and live there, and take your courses all across the university grounds.
I hope that's a correct enough summary. They took the format from Oxford, so go Google the Oxford format to see how it's done.
Some colleges are more difficult to get into than others. The two most famous and rich being St. John's and Trinity. St. John's came first in 1511, and then crazy King Henry VIII made Trinity right next door like 30 years later. Both are large and wealthy places where you can't walk on the grass,
and the two share a rivalry.
My friend also had me try on her old graduation robes, which, yeah, it's a look. Lots of neat academic oddities here. Thanks for the getaway, Cambridge. Much like any story, a trip must have an ending. And that leaves the big question, where would I spend it? Why not the White Cliffs of Dover? Walking up to the Trust sets the mood. Rain and wind are flying in from the English Channel. The ports to the rest of Europe are bustling with heavy road traffic, and the cliffs, well, they gently sprang out from the water, standing tall and powerful. Now and then, you see such beauty in nature, and words do no justice to how incredible it is. That's what I experienced hiking the cliffs here. put it on your bucket list, point out over at France, and be thankful for the planet we have. The rest of the day was very relaxed. I got back to London, finally tried to shoe. It was great, I get it now, and grabbed photos of places I hadn't yet. Mostly novelties I wanted to cherish, like train stations, black cab taxis, you name it. I ended it all with one last meal deal, plenty of overpriced souvenirs, and enjoying what makes London known worldwide. I loved my travels across the UK. I'd go back in a heartbeat. So many places, so many people, so many foods, so many memories. All of it lovely. I'm truly thankful for the experience.
And now with this video over, I can start asking a new question. Where to next?